Welcome back to the GCSE Maths Pro YouTube channel. Today's video is on the perimeter of some basic 2D shapes. So first of all, we have to understand what is the perimeter of anything in general. And mathematically, the perimeter means adding together all of the outside sides. So in terms of a rectangle, or also a square, which has 4 sides, you would need to add together all 4 sides. In terms of this triangle, you'd just add together these 3 sides that you can see. The perimeter, in general, is literally kind of like the outside of something. If you were to imagine a field, the perimeter of a field is like if you were to walk along the fences all the way around the field. That's the perimeter, right? So, work out the perimeter of these shapes. Literally all that means is I need to add together all of the sides. Now, in terms of this rectangle, you can see we've only got 2 sides labelled. But that's obviously because with a rectangle, the opposite sides are the same, aren't they? So, for example, this top side is also 13. And this left side is also 5. So the perimeter, if I just put P, would be 5 plus 13 plus another 5 plus another 13. And you would just literally add them all together, which should give you 36. In terms of this triangle, again, just literally add together all of the sides that you can see. Now you can see all of these 3 sides are different, hence why they're all labelled. So I just need to do 4 plus 5 plus 3. Which will give me 12, again, centimetres. That is literally it for the perimeter. It's just the outside of a shape, all of the outside sides of a shape added together. Okay, so the next shapes we have here, we have obviously a parallelogram on the left, and then we have this trapezium on the right. So working out the perimeter, as we said, is obviously just adding together all of the sides. Now with the parallelogram, we've only been given 2 sides, but it is basically the same idea as a rectangle, isn't it? That, for example, the top and the bottom are the same length, aren't they? That has to be 8.5 as well. And the left side and the right hand side have to be the same as well. So this is also 3.75. So we just need to add together all 4 of those, or just double each of them. So the perimeter is 8.5 plus 3.75, and then effectively that times by 2, isn't it? Or you can add them manually, whichever you prefer, which gives us 24.5. So that is it for the parallelogram. Now for the trapezium, because all of the sides in this case are different, you can see that we've been obviously given all of the sides. So all I need to do for that one is just literally add them together as they've been shown. So I've got 7.9 plus 4.8 plus 11.3 plus 5.4. And for this one, that gives me 29.8. So that is it. You're literally just adding together all of the sides. Now, obviously, they can make it a little bit more complex with using compound shapes like this. Compound shapes is where you have a shape that is obviously made up of 2 other shapes. So for example, here, if I were to split this, that's obviously 2 rectangles, isn't it? They've stuck them together. So, the perimeter of the shape is all of these sides added together, but as you can see, before I even start with adding them, I have got 2 sides missing. Do you see this horizontal one here and the vertical one on the right? So I'm actually going to have to figure out those missing side lengths before I can add them all together to get the perimeter. Now, a lot of people kind of get stuck here and they think, oh, just kind of look at it and go, well, it's roughly, maybe half, or it looks like it's half and half. I'm going to just split 14 in half and put 7. Anything that's drawn in your exams, unless it says otherwise, is not drawn to scale or is not drawn accurately, okay? So we can never really rely on assumptions. I'm assuming that that's half, for example. I can't rely on that, even if it looks exactly half. Which I know in this case it doesn't, but even if it did look like this vertical bit was exactly half of this whole tall bit, you can never assume that. There will always be enough information written down for you to actually work it out properly. In this case, we're going to look at, obviously if I want to work out this vertical side, I need to compare it with the other vertical sides. So the whole thing is obviously 14, that's fine. However, if I then look at this other vertical part, which is 8, can we see that the 14 is the whole height of the shape, and then the other 2 vertical sides, if you were to actually line them up with each other, would make up 14, wouldn't they? So that's how I know how to calculate this missing piece here. I know that it must be 8 plus whatever this one is to equal 14. So all I need to do in this case with the vertical missing side is just do 14 take away 8, which will give me 6 centimeters. So as you can see, it's not exactly half. It's close, but not exactly. Now I'm going to do exactly the same thing, but horizontally, because we can see this other missing side is horizontal. So the missing side is here. Obviously, the whole of the shape horizontally is 11 centimeters across, and then in my other horizontal part is the 2 centimeters up here. And again, if I were to line them up, like let's say here, that's obviously still 2 centimeters here, isn't it, for example? So if that's 2 centimeters, and then I know that the whole thing is 11 across, then I can work out the missing piece by just doing 11 take away 2. So that must be 9. So they might make it a bit more complicated with a compound shape if you do have missing sides, but just compare all the horizontal sides together and all the vertical sides, and then you'll be able to figure them out. Now, finally, to actually work out the perimeter, as we said, the perimeter is the outside edges added together. So all of the sides added up. So in this case, we've got 14 plus 2 plus 8 plus 9 plus 6 plus 11. And you would just add those together, which should give you 50 centimeters. That's it, that's the perimeter. Okay, so we're going through a few other more complicated problems again. So the shape below is made up of 5 smaller rectangles. So you can see there's 5 here and then an individual one we've been given the information for on the left. Work out the perimeter of the shape. So in this case, as we said, it's the outside of a shape. Okay, so again, another mistake is that some people think we need to add together all of the sides that you can see, so including these, which are on the inside of the shape. It doesn't. It's just literally the outside of the shape. So that will be roughly where you can see the green that I've drawn really badly. It's just those sides added together. It's not anything on the inside, even if there are lines. Okay, it's just the outside of a shape. So now we need to equate this rectangle with the measurements with all of these. Now we can see, let's just start labeling on the ones that are pretty obvious. We can see that the shorter side of the rectangle is 8. So for example, this bit here, that's 8, isn't it? Like this bit here, that's 8. Up here is 8, here is 8, and down here is 8. So is this one. Okay, so we've got a few. The longer side of the rectangle is 18, so I can put that in. So that's 18, that one's 18, that's 18, and that's 18. Now, do we have any missing? Because it does look like they're all filled, but just double check if there's any missing. As you can see, this bit here is missing, this bit here, and that bit there. So we've got 3 sides that are missing. So kind of similar to the previous question, can we figure out what that measurement would be? Again, don't assume that it's going to be maybe half, because I know it looks like it's half of that rectangle, but we can never make assumptions. Okay, don't make any assumptions. There should be correct information there for you to figure it out or work it out. Also, don't necessarily assume that it's 8, just because it looks like a shorter side. We're going to actually calculate it ourselves. So if we have a look, let's look at this top one here, because we can kind of see that one better. It's 18 from this long side here, isn't it? That's 18. Obviously, the whole of the left side is also 18. Now, this shape here, I know we're not going to add this to our perimeter, but this length here is 8, isn't it? We know that for sure because it's the opposite side of the rectangle. So it gives us that same scenario that we had in the previous question where we know the whole of this is 18, part of it over here is 8, so what's the missing bit, the orange bit? Well, we're going to have to do 18 minus 8, which actually gives us 10. So this orange bit is going to be 10. So that's 10. Again, just double check you've got the same scenario. Yeah, it's the same scenario because I know that this bit here is 8, so that must be 10. So this one's a bit harder at the bottom because we've actually got 2 of the rectangles vertically next to each other. So it could be any length, like this bit here could be any length, that bit there could be any length. We're going to have to look into more detail here. This bit here, we know, is 8, and therefore that bit must be 10, and therefore if we flip again, being that this whole thing is 18, actually this one here is 8, isn't it? This orange one, that one there is 8. So it's a little bit trickier because we just have to double check everything. So now we have actually got all of our sides, we've labelled them all, we just need to add them all together now. Now either you can go around and write down 8 plus 8 plus 8 or whatever it is, but let's just count them up. So how many 8s do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's effectively just 6 times 8 there because that's 6 8s added together. Plus, okay, how many 18s do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 times 18. And then how many 10s do we have? 2, so obviously you know that's 20, but I'll just write it down 2 times 10 for now. And then we can add all of those together, which gives us 140 centimetres total. Okay, so because perimeter itself is quite a straightforward concept, it's just literally adding numbers together, they might give you these harder questions which are kind of more problem solving in a way. So for our final question, it's a little bit different because this time we're actually given the perimeter and we need to work backwards. So it says here the perimeter of the equilateral triangle is 27 centimetres. Work out the length of one of the sides. Now the key thing being here is that it's equilateral, isn't it? Obviously a triangle has 3 sides, as you can see, but if it's an equilateral triangle it means all of the sides are the same. So it's kind of like drawing these little lines, isn't it? Now if all of the sides are the same and we know that they add up to 27, effectively I can just share out 27 3 ways, can't I? So in this case, working backwards, to find out one side, because they're all equal, all I need to do is divide by 3. Now, this doesn't work if it's a different type of triangle, okay? It only works for equilateral triangles. But in this case, obviously, they have to be the same length. So 27 divided by 3 does give me 9. So you imagine that this is obviously 9. That one's 9, and that one's 9. You could always double check, does that add up again to 27? Well, obviously, yeah. Okay, so that's a slightly harder question where we have to work backwards. So sometimes they could give you the perimeter and ask you to work backwards to find a side. We need to be able to think about this logic both ways. So that is everything you need to know for the perimeter of some basic shapes. The next video to check out is the circumference of circles and the perimeter of semicircles. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like and subscribe, and please leave down below any questions or comments that you might have.